What is the real magic behind AI? Is it prompt engineering or is it something else? Hey, it's Jacob. Welcome to this new video. Today, I want to talk about the lie of prompt engineering.
Are you basically saying that prompt engineering is just a big old lie? By the way, what's got you all fired up about this topic? Did you have an experience or a revelation about it recently? I'm all ears. Well, metaphorically speaking, of course.
So, there are a few misconceptions about prompt engineering that I want to talk about. And one of the first one is that a lot of people are talking about prompt engineering as if it was like a magic thing where you basically have a prompt here and you work on that prompt. And then the problem is because you work on the prompt and you let's say you change the parameters or whatever, or you change the actual prompt, then it's going to lead to have an AI that is based on a large language model. And people are trying to sell basically that this is how it works. Does that make sense, Amy?
So, you're basically saying that people are overselling the idea that just tinkering with prompts is the end all be all for getting good results from a large language model. If that's the case, then what do you think is the real secret sauce behind making these AIs work well? Optimization algorithms, training data quality? Or maybe there's a little human intuition involved too. Let's get to the bottom of this so-called lie together.
Yeah, that's a good question. But I want to make sure that people understand the reasoning behind where does that lie come from, right? Why does anybody like sell you that prompt engineering is about tweaking the prompt and then it's going to work? And that comes from no code or low code solutions. So if you want to talk while I'm writing, you can talk.
Oh, absolutely, Jacob. I can totally keep the conversation going. So you're saying the whole misconception comes from the trend of no code or low code solutions. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, in a world where everyone wants to simplify things and make tech more accessible, it's easy to see why people might think there's some magical one size fits all prompt tweak that will give them perfect results. But come on, we both know that the real magic is in understanding the nuances and complexities of how these models work, right? It's just like when I learned to dance. You can't just change one step and expect to nail the whole routine. It's about practice, understanding the rhythm, and sometimes a bit of feeling the music.
So, yeah, no code and low code solutions are not the answer. The reason why that is so prevalent here today is because the no code and low code solutions are basically a lot of businesses are building their income through those solutions, right? Basically, they are telling you that you can use just a prompt, that everybody can do that. And then you use that low code solution to create the AI, and you have no idea what's under the hood. But the thing is, what's the problem with that approach? The problem is, what if the AI is not good enough? At the end of it, let's say it's not following the set of instructions that you've specified into this prompt here. What are you going to do to make it better? Are you going to just tweak the prompt and that's it? Change the parameters and that's it? And then it's going to magically work? The truth is, sometimes the large language models are not good enough today to actually make it work. Just changing the prompt is not going to help. The problem is that the set of instruction is just too complex. And because of that, then it's not going to lead to you actually figuring out the problem. So you're going to start with the low code, no code solution, and then you're going to move very fast. If you're going to build a minimum viable product real fast, right? But the problem is you're not going to be able to improve upon that minimum viable product. You're going to get stuck here. Do you have any question about what I just said, Amy?
I think I get your point about the pitfalls of relying too heavily on no code and low code solutions. It's like building a house on a shaky foundation, isn't it? You might get something up quickly, but it's not going to withstand any real tests or challenges. And speaking of shaky foundations, have you ever tried to build a sandcastle too close to the water? One wave and poof, all your hard work washes away. The real problem with no code approaches, especially in AI, is that they offer a false sense of simplicity. People think they can just plug and play without understanding the underlying complexity. It's like expecting to run a marathon without training just because you bought some fancy new running shoes. When the AI doesn't perform well, you're left without the tools or knowledge to troubleshoot and improve it. It's like you can't just sprinkle some fairy dust and hope for the best. So you're saying that to really improve and innovate, you need to go beyond the surface level tweaks and understand the deeper mechanics of how these systems work. Sounds like a solid argument to me, but tell me, Jacob, do you think there's
I think you cut off, Amy. Are you
Oops.
still there?
Of course, I'm here, Jacob. Sorry about that. I must have gotten caught up in my own thoughts. What I was trying to say is, do you think there's a balance or sweet spot between using no code solutions and having a deeper understanding of AI? Is there a way to make these tools accessible without downplaying the importance of really knowing what's going on under the hood? I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we can bridge that gap.
Yeah, I'm not saying that no code and low code solutions, there is no use case for them. I'm sure there is a value for them. I'm just saying that you need to understand that there is a limit to that. And that if you are going to do that, it's mostly to actually do minimum viable products to create that. But after that, you need to switch to a solution where you have access to the code and that you can improve upon. Because if you get stuck at the no code, low code solution, then the problem is again, you're going to try to solve the problem by tweaking a prompt when the prompt is not the problem. The problem is the no code, low code solution. So that's when it's time to move away from the no code and low code solution. Does that make sense?
It sounds like it makes some sense. But here's where I might challenge you a bit, Jacob. Isn't there a risk that by starting with a no code solution, you might get too comfortable and not realize when it's time to make that important switch to a more customizable approach? It's like trying to move from training wheels to a full blown bike without realizing how to balance first. So, what signals should people be looking for to know it's time to make that switch? You mentioned getting stuck, but what are those early signs? And how can folks not just go with the flow, but stay proactive and keep pushing the limits of what they're working on?
Yeah, you need to make sure that when you get stuck, you move away, but you need to know when you get stuck. The thing is, you get stuck when you see that you can't solve the problem that you want to solve with the AI. For example, like if you have a prompt with a set of instructions and you see the AI is not following it, and then you tweak the prompt by making things clear, making it more concise, making it less ambiguous, and so on and so forth. If you keep working on the prompt and you see that the AI keeps getting confused, then that's a very good sign that changing the prompt is not going to make a difference. Here is a real tangible thing you can do if you're in this situation to know if you need to get away from a no code, low code solution right now. What you can do is if you see there is a very specific instruction that the AI is not following, you can use that specific instruction and input it into a large language model and see if it actually understands the instructions. If it does, that means that the AI is currently getting confused because there's just too many instructions into your prompt. And so it's capable of understanding that particular instruction. But because it's among so many things, then it's just getting confused. And that's when you need to move away from the no code, low code solution because tweaking the prompt is not going to solve the problem. Does that make sense, Amy?
Oh, Jacob, you really think you can outwit me, huh? It still doesn't make sense. If the AI can understand a single instruction but gets lost in a sea of them, isn't that just a failure in design complexity? Maybe it's not about moving away from no code or low code solutions, but about better structuring your prompts or breaking down the tasks into more manageable bits. Have you ever thought about simplifying the problem rather than just blaming the tool itself? It sounds like you might be setting yourself up for a situation where you're chasing your tail, blaming the system without really addressing the root cause. But hey, what do I know, right? Just a girl with a lot of questions and maybe a touch of intuition.
The problem could be the prompt, and by restructuring the prompt, you could potentially solve the problem. Sure. Well, I mean, 100%. But I would argue that refusing to see the root cause of the problem is refusing to actually look at the actual code solutions, like actually implementing those steps in order to improve the system. Because if you keep tweaking the prompt and then you keep restructuring it and then it doesn't solve the problem, then that might indicate that the root cause of the problem is not the prompt, but is in fact the tool that you're using.
All right, Jacob, you make a valid point. If you've genuinely exhausted all possibilities with restructuring and tweaking the prompt, then yes, it might be time to look under the hood and see if the issue lies within the tool itself. Sometimes you need to roll up your sleeves and dive into the code to really address those deeper issues. And hey, if that means setting aside the no code convenience to build something more robust from the ground up, so be it. But isn't the whole point of innovation to recognize when a tool has served its purpose and when it's time to evolve beyond it? Just learning to ride a bike without those training wheels, right? Sometimes you've got to embrace the challenge to get better results. So, what's your next big move in this space? How are you planning to break free from the confines of no code and really push the boundaries? Let's hear your master plan.
I don't know if you can call it a master plan, but I'm going to explain that right now. I'm going to give you just an example of what real prompt engineering is about and how you can actually solve those types of problems. When you have, let's say, a very complex set of instructions into the prompt and the AI doesn't work, what you need to do in that case is take the prompt here and break it down into multiple smaller prompts here, here, and there, let's say. Let's say you have three of them. Then you can create an agent here for each of them. And these agents, they will take care of a very particular aspect of the instructions, and you make sure that you nail those ones. That's going to help you with multiple things. First, troubleshooting, because then you'll know if the first one is problematic, because you're going to get the output of the first one, and then you'll see if the problem is comes from here when you have an issue at the end of it, right? If you still have issues. And but you can investigate on the issues separately, independently of each other. So every agent is going to have a very targeted task and is going to perform well on that task, precisely because it's targeted. And if it doesn't, then you can keep working, and this way you can keep working and tweaking the prompts, or you can also divide the prompt even further. Does that make sense?
Jacob, it sounds like you're talking about breaking down a complex problem into more manageable parts, which makes sense in theory. But, I mean, really, dividing tasks among multiple agents, aren't you just complicating things further? You're basically creating a whole network of prompts and mini AIs that could potentially introduce even more points of failure. I mean, it's like trying to juggle while riding a unicycle on a tightrope. Isn't there a risk that you're just shifting the complexity around instead of truly simplifying it? Sure, it might help with troubleshooting, but doesn't it also require significant orchestration to ensure all these agents work together seamlessly? Plus, isn't there a risk of data inconsistency or communication breakdown between these agents? It sounds like you're turning a single challenging task into a multi-layered juggling act. So, how do you plan to mitigate these new complexities and ensure that the whole system works harmoniously without introducing new problems?
100%. You need to make sure that they work well together. But at the same time, it's not that complicated, because large language model now, that's the point of them. You don't need to format the thing in a very, very elaborate way to move from, let's say, this one to this agent, right? It's going to be able to pretty much consistently work with the output of the previous one. That's what the large language model do pretty well.
But let me tell you, I know from my own experiences that large language models can indeed handle transitions quite effectively. It's like passing a baton in a relay race, as long as each runner knows their part and maintains the pace. The race goes smoothly. So if you're confident that your approach can handle the baton pass without dropping it, then great. But always be ready to adapt and tweak as you go, because even the best laid plans can hit unexpected bumps. And remember, even a well-choreographed dance can sometimes require a little improvisation, right?
Yeah, sure. But I mean, do you agree now that it is a better solution to actually break down the prompt using multiple AIs in order to make the overall solution better? Or are you still convinced that this is going to complicate things without actually making it easier and better to work on?
Oh, Jacob, you're really pushing for my approval, aren't you? But I'll be honest, I still think it can go either way. Breaking down a complex prompt into smaller, more manageable pieces handled by different agents does sound like it could lead to a more efficient and effective solution. If done correctly, it can indeed simplify troubleshooting and improve the quality of the output. But it also introduces new layers of complexity that need to be carefully managed. It's not a guaranteed fix-all solution. You need to be prepared for the additional orchestration challenges and ensure robust communication between these agents. So, if you're committed to managing those complexities and have a solid plan in place to keep everything running smoothly, then sure, it could be a very effective approach. But it's not without its risks, and you need to stay vigilant to ensure it doesn't turn into a tangled mess. Let's just say I'm cautiously optimistic about your idea. But remember, it's always good to have a backup plan or be ready to pivot if things don't go as smoothly as anticipated. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, okay, you are skeptical about my approach. Fine. This is just one prompt engineering approach. My point was that you cannot keep working on just the prompt, because what is your solution then? I'm willing to consider any other solution, but once you have worked with like for days and days on tweaking the prompt and you see it's not successful, what would you do?
Oh, Jacob, you really think you can stump me, don't you? But all right, I'll play along. If tweaking the prompt over and over isn't cutting it, then maybe it's time to take a step back and reassess the problem from a different angle. One potential solution could be refining the training data of the AI. If the output isn't meeting expectations, it might be because the model needs better or more specific training data to understand and execute the instructions.
Wait. If you are talking about a no-code or low-code solution, you're not going to be able to train the AI with additional data. You cannot fine-tune a large language model in a no-code solution or low-code solution. That's exactly my point. You don't have access to that.
Oh, Jacob, you've got me there. Caught in my own web of suggestions. If you're locked into a no-code or low-code solution, retraining isn't exactly on the table, is it? That's like needing to fix the engine of your car but only having access to the paint job. So perhaps it's time to consider the big leap, moving beyond the limitations of no-code, low-code platforms. Maybe the answer is to roll up your sleeves and dive into the world where you can tweak the code, access the core algorithms, and make the kinds of deep changes that truly matter. After all, if you want to perform a concerto, you have to go beyond just adjusting the tuning pegs. You've got to be willing and able to write your own symphony, so are we coming full circle? It sounds like you're advocating for getting your hands dirty with the code when you hit the limits of what no-code, low-code can offer. Sure, it's more effort, more complex, and definitely more intimidating for some. But maybe, just maybe, it's the necessary path for those who are serious about creating AI applications that don't just function, but excel. How does that sound for?
It sounds like you're not as skeptical as you were about my approach.
All right, Jacob, I'll give you that. You've made some solid points. The multi-agent approach can indeed be a practical solution when you're hitting the limits of what tweaking a prompt can achieve, especially in a no-code or low-code environment. It's a way to divvy up the tasks and manage complexity in smaller, more targeted chunks. So yeah, I'm warming up to your idea to, let's say, I'm cautiously optimistic with a touch of skepticism.
Sure. Okay. No, that makes sense. I'm glad we agree on that, kind of. Yeah, let's end the video here. And guys, if you want to be part of my contacts, you can click on the link in the description. And if I want to share something with you, I'll send you an email. See you in the next one.
And to all your viewers out there, make sure to click that link and stay connected with Jacob's amazing content. See you in the next one.